indomitable human spirit that allows a person to survive and triumph over great horrors and persecution. Like the other American and Filipino soldiers who fought valiantly for freedom in the face of insurmountable odds, Pat is a hero. A Memoir of Bataan. I grew up in Nebraska during the bleak years of the Great Depression, famous in history for the Dust Bowl that devastated our crops and filled the dusty skies with centuries of precious topsoil. Like many others, our family felt the effects of the creeping poverty afflicting American farmers and their families. Perhaps it was the anxiety and insecurity of those times that encouraged my mother and me to fight so much, but the truth is I was anxious to get away from my home just as soon as I could. My father died when I was just 20 months old. When the war broke out in Europe, I figured that a draft wouldn't be too far away, and I much preferred to choose my own way of serving. So I enlisted in the Army Air Force in 1940. The Army was my ticket to freedom. To get as far away from Nebraska as possible, I signed up for overseas duty. After basic and specialist training, I was assigned to the Philippines in March 1941. That was about as far away as I could get. My specialty was as a radio operator aboard military aircraft. In 1940, the Army really didn't understand the military potential of an air force. Most of the generals in Washington thought it was nothing more than a battlefield gimmick that had some value in providing intelligence to ground troops, but little practical application in battle. Their experience in World War I was that most air combat had been between the aircraft themselves, and that the occasional bomb dropped over the side by a pilot had little effect on the ground battle. But by 1941, the range, speed, and power of aircraft had expanded considerably, and the war in Europe was showing just how important this new technology was to the total war effort. Still, the staunch isolationist movement at home made it difficult for the Army or Navy to get funds to invest in airplanes. The effect was that the Army had very little functional equipment at the outbreak of the war. That was certainly true in the Philippines, where we had a handful of obsolete observation aircraft and a few small bombers and fighters. At most, we had about 10 to 18 operational bombers at Nichols Field. I was assigned to the 2nd Observation Squadron, where we trained on a Curtiss O-52 observation aircraft and Douglas B-18 bomber. Most of us really enjoyed our service in the Philippines. It was oppressively hot in the winter months, but the lush vegetation and tropical setting was a perfect contrast to the drab Nebraska plains I'd wanted to get away from so badly. Plus, I enjoyed having lots of friends around all the time, and with no battles raging, we had plenty of time for rest and relaxation when not on duty. The threat of war was ever present, and all the experts figured that if we did engage the Japanese, the Philippines would be the first place attacked. Military planners assured us that they had laid in a 6-month stockpile of food and ammunition, and that a Japanese attack on Manila would inevitably fail because of the big guns located on the island of Corregidor in the mouth of Manila Harbor. And even though we were thousands of miles from America, the Pacific Fleet stationed in Honolulu, Hawaii, could easily reach us before the Japanese could mount a full invasion. So even though we were in a dangerous place, we really weren't too concerned. Plus, being young and naive, we were actually kind of excited to get into battle and to experience the thrill of combat. It's hard to imagine now that we could have been so stupid. Monday, December 8th, 1941, dawned like any other. We'd had a lazy Sunday the day before, listening to American music on the shortwave radio, spending time at the enlisted club, and playing cards. Rumblings between Japan and the mainland had put us all on an increased alert for the past several weeks, but as each day passed with nothing happening, we had let our guard down and figured it was just more political maneuvering. This calm serenity was shattered shortly after I rolled out of bed when someone came in shouting that the Japanese